take two comedians with radically different styles and inject one into the other's movie after the fact. What could possibly go wrong? Hi friends, Barkey Dog here, back with another movie review. The never-ending fountain of delights that was the 1980s. Now, usually when we hear about studio interference, it's a bad thing because it guts a movie's potential and ruins stuff, right? Well, this is one case where it actually kinda worked. We're talking about Best Defense from 1984, starring Dudley Moore and Eddie Murphy. Dudley Moore plays an engineer for a perpetually failing defense contractor. He's working on a gadget that helps an advanced tank target stuff, or run, or something. Anyway, the team just can't get it to work. After an important test fails, Moore goes to drown his sorrows before heading home. At the bar, he's accosted by a weird guy who starts going on about spies and stuff. When Moore isn't looking, the guy slips a computer disk into Moore's briefcase. Then the guy winds up getting murdered. Turns out the weird guy was also an engineer, only he works for a rival firm, and he was going to sell the disk to an industrial spy. And he was having second thoughts, so he talked to Moore about it. This guy is the killer who looks and acts like Gary Busey, but he isn't. Moore discovers the disc, and when he opens it at work the next day, it shows a diagram of the rival company's gadget. Everyone assumes Moore made these new specs, and despite all his efforts to tell the truth, the team grabs the plans, gives him the credit, and they build it. Things reach a point where Moore can't just flat out admit it isn't his work, because it looks like this new approach will save the company. He gets a big promotion, and his hot, sexy fantasy woman boss starts getting all hot and bothered over him. And then the killer, who is not Gary Busey, shows up demanding the secret info so he can give it to the Russians. From there, it's a race against time to complete the work, save the company, thwart the killer, who is not Gary Busey, make out with the hot, sexy boss, and avoid running afoul of the FBI. Also in the cast are Kate Capshaw as Moore's wife, Helen Shaver as the sexy boss, and David Rash as not Gary Busey. Now, you'll notice I haven't mentioned Eddie Murphy yet. Well, that's because this is not Eddie Murphy's movie. It's Dudley Moore's movie. In fact, Murphy is credited as a strategic guest star because that's exactly what he was. See, they made this movie in 1982 and then ran it by some test audiences who hated it. So it sat on the shelf for a bit since it was looking like a disaster. Then the studio did what they always do: throw good money after bad. Eddie Murphy was the hot new thing in comedy at the time, so they literally handed Eddie Murphy a check for $1 million to appear in some new scenes that were cut into the picture. All of Eddie Murphy's scenes are set in 1984 and intercut with Moore's material set in 1982. Later, when people asked Murphy why he appeared in this one, his answer was, "Because they gave me a check for $1 million! That's why!" He was always upfront about it. Yet, even though Murphy was in it for the money, it doesn't show. This was vintage Eddie Murphy at the top of his game, and his stuff is just fine. In fact, I wish they had simply made the movie with Murphy, or left the Dudley Moore version alone. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but yeah, you can kinda understand what the test audiences didn't like. A lot of the humor just kinda falls flat. Not Dudley Moore's fault, but it was the script and directing to blame. Murphy plays a tank commander stationed in Kuwait, who's there to test out a new tank that has Moore's gadget in it. The tank is comically worthless, constantly breaking down and malfunctioning. Then things heat up as Iraq invades, and Murphy has to take the tank into combat. Will it work or not? Director Willard Hayek only directed a handful of movies and was mostly active as a writer. He worked with George Lucas on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, American Graffiti, and Howard the Duck. In fact, he also directed Howard the Duck. After that, he took the hint and gave up directing. Oh, God, that movie. He did the best he could with this one, I suppose, but his lack of experience really shows. The movie ambles. Even when Dudley Moore is doing slapstick or involved in a chase or whatnot, the Eddie Murphy stuff is better, but that's because Murphy displayed his usual fast-talking energy, and you feel Murphy ad-libbed his way through, or maybe even wrote his own material. The intercutting between 1982 and 1984 mostly works, but not at the end. There's way too much of it. It drags on, and it takes forever to get to the point. Cut to the chase already, Willard! In the end, for all its problems, surprisingly, the movie wasn't a flop. It made its money back, and then was quietly forgotten. So the stunt casting worked, and Murphy should get the credit for that. Moore went on to a much better role as Patch the Elf in Santa Claus the Movie. Murphy's star kept rising. His next picture that year was Beverly Hills Cop. David Rush went on to play Sledgehammer, and Kate Capshaw married Steven Spielberg. You can even hear her humming the indie theme at one point in the movie. So, is Best Defense any good? Well, no. I'm giving this one 1 3/4 pause. The bulk of this picture is Dudley Moore as the hapless loser trying to make good and getting mixed up with murder and espionage and stuff. It all sounds good on paper, but it kind of falls flat due to the meandering, lackadaisical direction. And Moore is trying to have an affair with his sexy boss, which doesn't endear him to the audience since he's married to a nice lady played by Kate Capshaw. The Eddie Murphy stuff is totally different as a brand of comedy. Faster, more R-rated. It's an uneasy alliance. It kinda works, though, and Murphy is in top form despite only being there for the cash. And while this picture co-stars Moore and Murphy, the two never actually appear together on camera. They did shoot a scene where the characters meet, but it was cut before release. Murphy fans will love him here. As I say, he was at the top of his game then. But they'll probably be bored with Dudley Moore's more laid-back style of comedy, which claims the bulk of the screen time. Moore fans will not hate the Eddie Murphy stuff, but frankly, this isn't Moore's best outing. So the movie's not terrible, but it's not great either. The movie is definitely a curiosity from 1984. In a way, it's a blend of the old and the new, both figuratively and literally. And just 6 years later, Iraq really did invade Kuwait. So the movie weirdly predicted that. Best Defense is available on VHS DVD and digitally from Amazon Prime. You can watch another of my movie reviews here. And down there, you can see more reviews of movies from the 1980s. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.